When it comes to C-suite especially, my clients, I don't do under a 1-year engagement because it takes at least a year for, massive transformation. They'll start seeing results sooner than that, but they're making a lot of transformation. I will say that I have clients who have been with me for 7, 8, 9, even 10 years.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host Regan, and today's guest is Cynthia Corsetti, an executive and C-suite coach who has spent more than a decade transforming leadership potential into proven skill. Through her internationally acclaimed Care to Lead program, Cynthia equips senior leaders with the tools, strategies, and self-awareness to bridge the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it. In just the past 3 years, she has helped over 100 executives step into stronger leadership, driving measurable results like a 30% increase in operational efficiency. Beyond leadership development, Cynthia is also the creator of Reflect, Rebuild, Rebrand model for executive career transitions, guiding senior leaders into career moves that align with both their goals and their lives. And it's a pleasure for me to have her on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Cynthia.
Thank you so much, Regan. I really appreciate being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to have you on. And I wanted to learn a little bit more about your beginnings as a coach. So, into your own coaching business for these last few years, and I can see in LinkedIn it's been almost 15 years in total with Cynthia Corsetti coaching, executive coaching, and wanted to know, when it comes to the start of it, the beginning, what inspired you to become a coach and then start your own executive coaching business?
It was mostly my background in human resources because before I started this business, I was a vice president of human resources in a large corporation. And when I left that role because I met my now husband and the travel was just too much, I wanted to leave that role. I started my coaching business because I took all of the things that I really liked to do when I was in the corporate world and I boiled them down into one basket, which was coaching. It was helping executives grow. And I started immediately with the C suite because that's where I spent most of my time in my career.
And so, right now, within like 15 years of working with executives and going through the coaching journey with them, what about it would you say you find most rewarding?
I find the change most rewarding. Like every day is different. So one day I'm working with a client in Beijing dealing with things that we can't even really comprehend on a day-to-day basis over here. And the
Mhm.
next day I'm working with a startup and the next day I'm working with, engineering or medical. So I'm all over the board and there's no way that I can ever get bored in doing what
Mhm.
I do.
And for the ones that are listening, as I mentioned, there's two audiences. For the audience that could potentially fit the profile of executive, is there an ideal client profile that you typically like to serve? Meaning, is there an industry, demographic, psychographic? Do they have some common goals or other commonalities that set them apart?
They have to be senior executives. For me personally, like my company, we can deal with anyone, like someone who works with me. But for me personally, I will only work with a founder, an owner, or a C suite executive in an organization. And the reason for that, it's kind of like the I don't want remedial work. I want work with people who want to get better. I am looking at people that are already successful, that are already driven, already type A, and they're going for it, but they like, I know I can do more. That's the people that I jive with the most. That's the people that are going to make the biggest impact in their leadership. And that's who I work with.
And you mentioned this is who you work with, but in your company, are there also other coaches?
Yes.
How is the team structure?
I have 2 coaches who work with me fairly regularly. Jacqueline is my lead coach. She works with all the vice presidents, managers, directors, and so on. And she also does a lot of facilitation and group coaching and on-site group work and retreats and so on. The other coach that works with me is Matt, and he is a presentation coach, and he does a lot of live workshops on presenting and meeting presentations and video presentations and those kinds of things. So those are the coaching pieces of my business.
And I believe you probably have also other parts of the team, just out of curiosity, for the coaches who are listening, in terms of like the ideal structure of
Mhm.
the company.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I have 0 employees, and I never have, and I never will. I do all contracts.
Hmm.
So my executive assistant is a contract employee. Now she's been with me for about 3 years, but I don't dictate her hours or anything like that. It's all remote. She's in Cleveland. My finance person is in Pittsburgh. The presentation coach is in Nashville, and the other facilitator is in San Francisco, and I'm in Pittsburgh. So we're all over the place. We meet virtually, we use Slack, we use Zoom
Hmm.
regularly, and yeah, it works. And then I'm not tied into all the employment taxes and so on. That's on them, but then I can pay them more hourly, and it's just all structured well that way.
Makes a lot of sense, actually. And so, when thinking about the clients that you serve, both you and your team, how is the engagement like? You mentioned one on one coaching, then group coaching as well. What are kind of like is there a program length that most executives go through? I can assume a lot of executives will have a custom made journey for them, but how would you explain kind of like the engagement they have with you as a coach?
Well, when it comes to C suite, especially, my clients, I don't do under a 1 year engagement because it takes at least a year for, massive transformation. They'll start seeing results sooner than that, but they're making a lot of transformation. I will say that I have clients who have been with me for 7, 8, 9, even 10 years because if they move from one job to the other, they just kind of take me with them. So, as an executive level coach, I try to limit my personal one on one practice to only 10 clients per year. But some of those clients who have been with me for so long that I kind of don't count them because they're kind of on autopilot. So, that's why they'll say, well, I still have one opening. Meanwhile, you might be client number 12, but I know clients number 1 and 2 have been here for 10 years and they don't take as much work. So my clients are usually at least a minimum of a year. Now, the other part of my business, we might have a, 2-day workshop, might be the full engagement. It might be a 6-month engagement. It might be a year engagement because different levels of the organization, they're not always willing to invest as much into a junior leader as they are into a senior leader. And you might have 5 junior leaders who are all being coached at one time in a 6-month engagement. And then you take the ones who do the best and who are engaged the most, and then you might extend that engagement for them.
And it makes sense. And when you say the other part of the business, you mean the other coaches, the other clients the coaches take, kind of.
And when we do organizational work, that's usually a year. So there's the one on one that I do with an executive who reaches out to me on their own. And then there's the organizational coaching. And we'll work with an entire organization where I'm the coach for every member of the executive team. And Jacqueline's the coach for every member of the leadership team below that. So we do in that 1 year, we're doing one on one, we're doing group, we're doing live facilitations. So that's a major engagement as opposed to just a one on one engagement that an individual calls for.
And it makes a lot of sense when you say that for the senior leaders and executives, it takes about a year for them to see meaningful change. And that makes a lot of sense to me. It's been brought out on the podcast from other executive coaches as well. And so, when thinking about marketing or like getting these clients, what has worked, and this is a question that mostly other coaches are going to find useful, is what has worked very well for you marketing wise? Is there a certain marketing channel that you see working really well?
It's funny you ask that because I think I have spent so much money over the years on different marketing things. What's really worked has just been word of mouth. LinkedIn has been huge for me. I think if I could I have a presence on Instagram. I got out of X for numerous reasons, but I have Instagram, Blue Sky, some YouTube, but I put all my effort into LinkedIn because that is where I believe my audience is. I kind of like TikTok and I keep thinking I like the vibe of TikTok. I like how you could just get on there and be authentic and just talk about something. Like today, I saw a video about someone who put in their 2 weeks notice and then they were fired. And like everyone on TikTok was like flipping out on like how terrible this was for the company to do. But my perspective on it was totally different. Like the company has every right to do that once you put in your 2 week notice, because all of a sudden you're a threat now. You're going to a competitor possibly. They don't want you having access to all of your stuff. Now, the ethical thing is to pay you for that 2 weeks. So where I'm going with that is I would have loved to jump on TikTok and do that. I haven't, because they keep saying that platform is going away. And I figure as soon as I get into it, it's going to go away. So if I were to do another one, it would be TikTok. Right now, it's on LinkedIn.
Hmm. Interesting, because TikTok doesn't usually come up, especially for executive coaches. Do you find that the audience could also be in TikTok?
I'm not sure. That's what's interesting, because honestly, my TikTok, my feed, you get your For You page, whatever. They send me a lot of stuff that I'm into. Like I'm into cooking. I love to cook, high protein, all the stuff. So I get all the recipes. And
Hmm.
then I also get a lot of political stuff. But I just watched one video that came across my feed from a coach. And once I started watching that, I saw multitudes of them. So they're there. I just don't think you see them unless you look for them. But I think the
Hmm.
people that are looking for them, I do think that audience is there. And I think it is a very different way to connect with people than you can connect on LinkedIn or Instagram is very performative and very polished, and LinkedIn a little bit of the same thing. It's not as authentic, honestly, as when you
Hmm.
just get on TikTok and you say, "Hey, that's like a really okay thing for that boss to fire you, and here's why." Like, I'm okay with that, and I like that kind of interaction. I guess I'll have to see what happens with TikTok as a
Hmm.
platform, and if I think it's gonna stay around, I will probably get involved.
Hmm. And interesting, you also mentioned that you left X for certain reasons. I don't really want to talk about it, but I was thinking like there could be executives there too, in terms of like,
There are a lot of executives there. As a matter of fact, my biggest following was on X. I just political
mm,
and personal values,
I
couldn't do
see.
that.
Okay, cool. So it wasn't that it wasn't working in that sense.
I had a lot of followers. I don't know that I can say, like, I can tell you that I have gotten business from LinkedIn, directly
Mm,
from LinkedIn, people reaching out to me reaching out to people. It has turned into clients. I cannot say the same, even with a lot of followers on X over the years. I cannot say has ever led to business. The same with Instagram, Facebook, or any of the other ones.
makes sense. So right now, and to change topics a little bit from marketing, is looking at your coaching business for the next 1 to 3 years, looking to the future. Where is it going? Do you have any specific business goals you're working towards?
It's interesting that you asked that. There's kind of twofold, right? For myself personally, I want to step back more and focus more and more on my one on one clients. I like to travel, I like to golf, I like to do the things, and I don't want to be necessarily personally going in and facilitating. I want my team to do that. So for me, my goal is one on one executive coaching. Now, if it's organizational, it's still C suite coaching one on one, mostly Zoom, some in person. But organizationally, we have the Care to Lead operating system, which we created, just recently. And what that is, when you're working with leaders, okay, they go to trainings, they read books, they know lean in, they know crucial conversations, start with why, they know all the things, they know all the things we teach. But what happens is when they're tired and they're stressed and they're under pressure and they're triggered in any way, shape, or form, they default back to their old operating system.
Hmm.
And that operating system is reactive and it ignores all the training that they've had. So the Care to Lead operating system, it doesn't just teach them skills, how to handle a difficult conversation or how to do a one-on-one meeting. It has that, but that's not what it's about. What it's about is recognizing when you're triggered, recognizing when you're not thinking rationally, recognizing how to lead and make your default the good leader, not the old leader.
Hmm. So it's kind of like a system for kind of like working your way out of any relapse you might have out of emotions. And like when you said when you're tired. So kind of like your focus right now is mostly on doing one on one and doing less of the other operations in the business, kind of be that facilitation, but also maybe working on your business. I don't know how much that takes from your time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
People, it's funny because when you work at home, people think, well, it's not that expensive. It's not that hard. It is ridiculously expensive for all the programs that you need to have. I'm sitting here with 4 monitors, lighting, cameras, the whole 9 yards, paying your team, paying for the platforms, your email platform. So overhead for me, even at a really low cost, is probably 3,000, 3,500 a month easily.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
sometimes, well, actually, that's even low because I sometimes pay 2,500 a month just for marketing things.
Mm. Yeah, it's definitely a myth saying that working from home is actually cheaper. It's not. It just has shifted for everybody, but it doesn't mean that it's cheaper. So, right now, when it comes to investments you've done in the business, and this again is a question that other coaches are going to find useful, is what have been some investments that you feel really good about? Either you got a good return from, it could be investments of time or money or both. So, an investment you felt good about, either you learned a lot or got a good return from, and what is investment that you would have preferred to have avoided?
Well, there's mostly the investments that I feel the best about have been actual coaching investments that I've made
Hmm.
in other coaches. I made an investment in a LinkedIn, I don't know what to call him, a LinkedIn coach, but
Hmm.
he was really, really instrumental in helping me redevelop my LinkedIn strategy. He was very good. I made some really poor investments. I had a YouTube guy that, I gave him $5,000 and then I spent another 3,500 or 4,000 on creating this long form video that he told me to create and he just disappeared off the face of the earth. And so that was like $10,000 down the drain. That was a really bad investment. I used to spend way too much on things like websites. You don't have to spend that much. Not a lot of people really are looking at your website. They're more interested in finding your resume on LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn as another website, basically. It has all the things that I do. So, yeah.
Yeah, I see. So you were also trying kind of like to grow on YouTube. I would say kind of like that turned into a bad investment. But right now, is YouTube a thing that you're trying anymore?
The whole video thing, anytime I do video, I actually also post it on YouTube.
Hmm.
I don't spend a lot of time on YouTube because there's only so much time you can spend in a day. So I try to gear my content all toward LinkedIn. I'll share it on the other platforms. If they get somewhere, fine. If not, that's fine too. I believe that my audience is mostly on LinkedIn. So that's where I'm going to focus my time. That's not to say that it's
Mhm.
not in those other places. I
Yeah.
my time is limited, so I'd rather just be, in one pond than in five.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we actually did a research on this last year. We interviewed about 71 coaches of different revenue stages that they were in. And we found that the main channel that coaches were going after, and there were career coaches and executive coaches both, and leadership coaches, the main channels started always with LinkedIn as the primary one, and everything else came second. And obviously, there's the referrals, which is not exactly a channel you work at consistently, but maybe there's a system you just like try to get referrals. But yeah, LinkedIn has been one of the primary ones for many coaches. And we're trying to do a research on this year as well with the podcast and the guests we've had on. So we'll see how that goes. But so far, LinkedIn is at the top. And yeah, it is enough for most coaches. It could be just LinkedIn and you're good. And depends on like when you think about how many clients you can handle a year, is how many are there really for you personally, for example.
I will say that Facebook for career coaching has always been that because that's a much lower ticket item. It's a
Mhm.
shorter, re3 reflective brand rebuild. That is only like a 12-week program. So it's much more cost effective. And when you think about who's looking for a career coach, Re 3 was created for executives, and I use it with executives. But there's also this whole market out there of people that are between jobs, wanting to change careers, not sure where they want to go, but they don't have $30,000. So they want to invest in something much smaller that can give them big bang for their buck. And those people, a lot of them will find you on Facebook.
Mhm. Yeah, and with Facebook, the only issue is that getting traction, it's probably with ads as organically is very, very slow.
Right.
Almost zero from what we've seen. But yeah, ads are a little bit easier to scale. So right now, where do you see kind of like the challenge with your coaching business? Where do you see the bottleneck? You did mention one, which was kind of like operationally, you want to focus more on working on your one-on-one clients. Is there any other challenges that you see on your business?
I wouldn't even call that a challenge. I think I just call it a I'm getting older and I just want to slow down and not work as hard anymore. The biggest challenge is always finding that new client. But I think when you just stop worrying about it and just start being as authentic. Like I find that the more you chase clients and the more you go out with this sales and this offer and this offer and this offer, the more you repel clients. But when clients know that there's actually a wait list to work with me right now, and
Hmm.
people know that. And as long as there's a wait list and you have that built for yourself, then you're always going to get more
Hmm.
clients because they want to work with you.
I see. And when you say waitlist, that's just for you as a coach within
Just for
your
me,
or
right?
not
Just
for
for
the whole
me.
company. I see. Okay.
Yeah, the whole company is fine, all taking clients, but for
Hmm.
myself, because I only take 10 one-on-one clients per year, there's a wait list.
Oh, makes sense. And so, all coaches that are trying to scale their impact, and a lot of coaches that I've interviewed also are driven by impact. In your case, you're working with executives, they have their own teams, they have a family, their team have a family. So, you kind of like do have a big impact working with these leaders. Is that something that drives you? And the second question is, what advice would you give to other coaches that are driven by this impact, that want to scale it kind of?
I'm
So,
not sure. Can you
initially
repeat that question?
so initially is I wanted to understand, like, are you also driven by impact
The impact that I can make on coaches, I mean, on
on
clients,
clients?
I will tell you that it's rewarding to get off of a coaching call where there was a breakthrough. It
Mm,
is incredibly rewarding. But the impact that the clients are making in their world, in their business, in their lives, and so on, that's like a bonus. It's nice to watch. But for my
mhm,
own personal satisfaction, it's on that call. And it's in between that call because I give my clients partnership. It's not just like structured calls. So they have pretty much 24-hour access. So I'll get
mhm.
a text or a Marco Polo from a client that just, had a breakthrough. And that to me is so worthwhile.
I see. Okay, so you're mostly focused on the impact you can have on one-on-one as opposed to the extra that happens to everything else since you're working with someone at the top. So, if you were thinking in that way, if you were driven by that kind of impact, is there any advice you give to these coaches? And you can think about it as an advice you give to yourself actually with just one-on-one impact.
I think it's just make sure that you're the best coach you can be and always be refining your coaching skills. Like always, always, always. I am have been asked and I'm considering doing in 2026 is doing an apprenticeship, taking one coach who is new to the business and wanting to build and scale an executive level coaching business and working with that coach throughout the year to help them create their pricing, create their structures, create their whole thing. But beyond any of that, the key is how good of a coach you are. And there's a fine line, and people will use the term coaching really loosely. But coaching is an art. Coaching is a skill. It is knowing what to ask, how to listen, and creating movement and drive in your clients without giving them the information or fixing the problem or giving
Mhm,
advice. And that's really hard to do. I catch myself 100 times a day. And then I'll rephrase. Okay, let me rephrase that. I invite you to consider. And it's coaching's hard and you have to refine it constantly and be getting better at your skill.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cynthia. And thank you so much for coming to our podcast today. For anyone who wants to connect with you or find you, they can look you up on LinkedIn, Cynthia Corsetti. They'll be able to find your profile and they can also go into cynthiacorsetti.com, which is your website, if not mistaken.
Correct. Yes.
Cool. And they'll be able to find you there as well. We'll put that in our description. Is there any other way people could connect with you or reach out to you?
That's the best way. I mean, my email's on my LinkedIn, so I'm easy to find, and I'm on LinkedIn all the time, so I respond to my messages.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Cynthia.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate the time very much.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.